Welcome to Farming God, the show that is hardly a show. I've been noticeably absent producing a 8-week series on the nature and culture of Minneapolis, St. Paul, which is a subject that, if you clicked on a podcast like Farming God, you are probably not interested in. But I think there's something to say for narrative and how it affects our lived experience. With that, I'm going to play a first episode from the new podcast called Deep North. It launched 2 weeks ago and became the fastest growing travel podcast on iTunes. Let me know what you think. Stay subscribed to Farming God. But for now, all the stories are going to be happening over at Deep North. You can find the Deep North podcast in iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you're listening to this too. But Farming God will be back. Don't you worry. This is Deep North, and I'm Steve Ray. I grew up in Minnesota, then left, toured the U.S., backpacked through Europe, and sailed across the Atlantic. While traveling, it appeared that the Minnesota I knew was much different from the one known by the rest of the world.
Is it in between Montana and Wisconsin? Is it there? Oh, shit. Okay.
This is a show about the nature and culture of MSP, dispelling the myths of Minnesota nice for the urbane side of the cities that the world, country, and even some Minnesotans haven't experienced. People have been asking me, why are you doing this? Why create this show?
Hey y'all, I'm Alex, and I'm from Austin, Texas. Wait, there's one more story I want to tell.
After living in Texas for a few years, my partner Alex and I decided to escape for the summer and head north.
There was a point where we were getting ready to move up here, and I was like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? Why am I going up to Minnesota? I know nothing about it. I have no friends up there, no family. And the idea I pictured in my head of Minnesota was just this kind of cold, dark corner of the U.S. that I just didn't know anything about.
And I didn't have much of any expectations either. All I'd ever been hearing for the last couple of years was that Minnesota was a place for cows, cold, and Camp Snoopy.
Cities fascinate me, so it's what I write about, it's what I talk about, it's what I consult about.
Jay Walljasper writes about urban planning and community development for publications like National Geographic Traveler and Utne Reader. In 2013, he published a report titled 27 Bright Ideas MSP Should Steal from the Rest of the World. There's a gap in between people's perception of Minneapolis, St. Paul, and what it really is.
Yeah.
Is that Minnesotans' fault?
To some extent, yes. We do a really dismal job of projecting to people elsewhere just what's possible here. And so, therefore, frankly, we don't exist in a lot of people's imaginations. They don't necessarily have a negative view of the place, but they don't really have any view of the place. And so I think in the end, that hurts us. We can't just rest on our laurels and say, we like it here, and it doesn't really matter whether anyone else knows. And this is the 21st century. This is the age of social media, the age of the brand called you. And we have to kind of make some noise, and do it in our own characteristic way.
It's snow! Christmas!
It's October.
There's this whole different vibe to it, this energy about the cities that I never felt, even living in really cool cities like Austin or when I lived in LA. Like, those were exciting cities. Everyone talks about it, Oh, you're in Austin. That's the coolest city right now. I mean, yeah, it is, but there's something up here that is even more magical.
I think we could learn some really good lessons from Austin, though, and it's not about, malignant growth. It's about Austin does a really good job of telling its own story. That they can kind of mythologize anything there. I mean, all these bats that fly out from under a bridge. Now, you got tourists from the suburbs of, Cleveland, we want to see the bats. Probably if they had bats in their own neighborhood, they'd run screaming and back to their car. So I mean, they do a great job of just identifying what's unique about that place and then just kind of promoting the heck out of it. We really need to look on, who we are, and and just, we don't have to change that much. Let's just simply trumpet what we have and do the things we do well better.
It has been nearly a year and Alex and I are still here. We've actually enjoyed winter and aren't planning on leaving. When we try to explain what keeps us here, it seems that we always come up short. Alex's mother still thinks we live in Indianapolis, and her father was shocked to learn that the Mississippi flows between Minneapolis and St. Paul.
Well, first of all, my mom doesn't actually know where I live still, I think. She's always like, oh, how's Milwaukee? Or how's Minneapolis? Or, oh, you're in Indianapolis? I'm like, Mom, I'm in Minneapolis. My stepmom always jokes. She's like, oh, yeah, Alex, she moved up to the tundra.
So why stay here? Why do you stay here?
I love that I can live in a city that's as cosmopolitan as Minneapolis, St. Paul, with ethnic restaurants, with good bookstores, with art galleries, with just, street life and interesting people. And yet I can hop on my bike and I can be out, sometimes within 5 or 10 minutes, be